Fabrizio Romano has stated that it's here we go for Marcos Senesi. The Argentina international will sign for Spurs on a free on what is expected to be a 4-year contract. Tottenham Hotspur are reportedly intensifying their interest in Crescencio Summerville, with fresh reports claiming Spurs have submitted a concrete offer for the West Ham winger ahead of the summer transfer window. Tottenham Hotspur are reportedly becoming increasingly optimistic about securing a deal for Manchester City winger Savinho this summer, with new Spurs boss Roberto De Zerbi understood to be a major driving force behind the club's pursuit of the Brazilian star. And Tottenham Hotspur have reportedly become unexpected contenders in the race to sign AC Milan forward Santiago Giminez this summer. Here are your daily Tottenham news headlines. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name's Craig and here are your daily Tottenham news headlines, where I'll be going through all the latest news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube and are not already as yet subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. Like, share and comment below. And if you're listening on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. And please make sure you turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever we go live or upload a video to the channel. Okay, let's get into it. Italian journalist and transfer expert Fabrizio Romano has stated this morning, Marcos Senesi to Tottenham, here we go. Deal in place after the verbal agreement reported since March. 4-year contract for Senesi, who's set to put pen to paper soon and join Tottenham Hotspur as a free agent, another one after Robertson. Bournemouth abandoned efforts to retain centre-back Senesi after he turned down a third new contract offer in December and began talks with major overseas clubs. However, the three-cap Argentina international now looks set to remain in the Premier League with a free transfer to Spurs. Tottenham Hotspur are reportedly stepping up their pursuit of Crescencio Summerville, with claims now emerging that Spurs have made a concrete offer to sign the West Ham winger this summer. According to reports originating from the Netherlands and relayed by media outlets across Europe, Spurs are pushing hard to land the 24-year-old after an impressive campaign in an otherwise disastrous season for West Ham United. The report states that Tottenham are currently among the frontrunners for Summerville's signature alongside Italian side AS Roma. Spurs are believed to have already moved beyond initial interest and into formal negotiations, with a concrete proposal now on the table. Summerville is said to be attracting growing interest after standing out during West Ham's relegation campaign. Despite the Hammers dropping into the Championship, the Dutch international was widely regarded as one of the few bright sparks in a difficult season. West Ham's relegation has placed the club under major financial pressure, with reports suggesting significant player sales are expected this summer in order to balance the books. Summerville has consequently emerged as one of the club's most sellable assets alongside several other senior stars. The winger is reportedly valued at around €30 million, a figure that Tottenham are considered capable of matching as they prepare for a major rebuild following another turbulent campaign in North London. Spurs' interest in Summerville is not entirely new. Reports earlier this year claimed that the club were already leading the race for his signature and identified him as a priority target to strengthen attacking options. The former Leeds winger has built a reputation for pace, direct dribbling and creativity in the final third. Tottenham are believed to view him as a player capable of adding much-needed explosiveness to their front line after a season plagued by inconsistency and lack of attacking threat. However, the report adds that competition for Summerville, as stated, is expected to be high and intensify over the coming weeks, with more clubs likely to enter the race for his signature. Roma remain firmly interested, while Premier League rivals have also been monitoring the situation. For Tottenham, securing Summerville would represent an early statement of intent as the club look to reshape the squad ahead of next season and avoid another campaign spent battling near the bottom of the table. Tottenham Hotspur are reportedly growing increasingly confident of landing Manchester City winger Savinho this summer, with new manager Roberto De Zerbi said to be playing a key role in the club's pursuit of the Brazilian attacker. According to multiple reports, Savinho is open to a move to North London as uncertainty continues to surround his Manchester City future. The 22-year-old winger endured a frustrating campaign at the Etihad, making just 7 Premier League starts across 24 appearances and struggling to establish himself as a regular starter under Pep Guardiola. Reports claim the lack of game time has left Savinho unhappy with his current role at City and increasingly receptive to the idea of an exit. Tottenham's interest in the Brazilian is not new, of course. Spurs attempted to sign Savinho last summer and are understood to have submitted 2 bids before Manchester City blocked any potential departure. Guardiola was reportedly determined to keep hold of the winger at the club when he was at the time, and even pushed for him to sign a new contract. However, Guardiola's departure from Man City has now dramatically altered that situation. The reports suggest one of the biggest obstacles preventing a move to Tottenham has effectively been removed, opening the door for Spurs to reignite negotiations. Roberto De Zerbi is believed to be central to Tottenham's renewed push for Savinho. The Italian manager reportedly views the Brazilian as an ideal fit for his attacking system and wants to make the winger a key part of his rebuild in North London. Savinho himself is said to be attracted by the opportunity to work under De Zerbi, whose reputation for developing technically gifted attacking players has grown significantly during his managerial career. With Wilson Odobert and Javi Simons both facing lengthy spells on the sidelines, Savinho has emerged as one of Tottenham's priority targets heading into the transfer window. Despite only registering 2 goal contributions this season, Savinho's underlying numbers are said to have impressed Tottenham's recruitment staff. Reports highlight his dribbling ability, chance creation and dual success as qualities that could bring much needed dynamism to Spurs' front line. There is also growing belief that the player himself would actively push for the move if Tottenham and Manchester City can agree a fee. Football Insider claims that Savinho is now prepared to help force the transfer through after previously showing interest in joining Spurs last year. However, again, competition for the winger remains possible. Newcastle have also been linked with the Brazilian, while Manchester City's incoming manager is expected to make a final assessment on several fringe players before any departures are sanctioned. For Tottenham, securing Savinho would represent one of the biggest statements of intent yet under De Zerbi, as the club look to recover from another chaotic campaign and rebuild a squad capable of competing higher up in the Premier League table. Tottenham Hotspur have reportedly emerged as surprise contenders to sign AC Milan striker Santiago Giminez this summer, as Roberto De Zerbi continues to reshape his squad ahead of the new campaign. According to reports from Mexico relayed by a Sport Witness, Spurs are closely monitoring Giminez's situation in Italy after the Mexico international endured a difficult spell at AC Milan. The 25-year-old striker joined Milan from Feyenoord in January 25. After establishing himself as one of Europe's most prolific forwards in the Eredivisie. However, his time in Serie A has failed to live up to expectations. Giminez scored 6 goals and registered 3 assists during the second half of last season, but managed just 1 goal in all competitions this year, while also struggling with a long-term ankle injury. As a result, the report claims that the forward is now open to leaving the San Siro in search of a fresh start, with Spurs among several clubs exploring a potential deal. Spurs are believed to view Giminez as a possible solution to their attacking issues after an inconsistent and injury-hit campaign. The article suggests the transfer could be completed for around £30 million, a fee that had previously attracted interest from clubs including West Ham, Leeds and Sunderland earlier in the year. A major factor highlighted in the report is the admiration former Tottenham defender Kyle Walker has for Giminez following their time together at AC Milan. Walker reportedly praised the striker's movement, creativity and work ethic, even comparing aspects of his game to former Manchester City forward Julian Alvarez. Sportsmole also claims Giminez's style of play could make him an ideal fit for Roberto De Zerbi's tactical system. The striker is described as an aggressive player, an aggressive presser, operating across the front line and bringing intensity to attack, qualities Tottenham are believed to be prioritising during the rebuild. Despite his struggles in Italy, there remains confidence that Giminez could rediscover the form that made him such a feared goalscorer in the Netherlands. Despite his and during his spell at Feyenoord, the Mexican international established a reputation as one of Europe's deadliest finishers and attracted widespread interest from top clubs across the continent. For Tottenham, a move for Giminez would represent another ambitious addition to De Zerbi, and as he looks to overhaul a squad that narrowly avoided relegation last season and restore the club to competitiveness higher up in the Premier League table. Okay, here's my thoughts on all those stories today. Firstly, the Senesi deal looks like this one is going to happen. Shouldn't be too surprised, I suppose. You know, if Spurs staying in the Premier League, we were told while the season was still running that if Spurs stay up, then we're going to move and go for, and deals agreed for, Senesi and Robertson. And it looks like those two deals have been done fairly swiftly. Obviously, no official announcement yet on either player. But Senesi would definitely bring, and he'd bring strength and experience to our back line. And I think this is a really clever move, really good player. I think he's Bournemouth's player of the year last season. And he's free, and so is Robertson. I know we spoke about Robertson the other day, but Senesi, look, it smacks to me we're going to lose at least one centre-back this summer, because we don't really know what's happening with Vuskovic either. Is he going to go out on loan somewhere? Doubt if it's going to be Hamburg by the look of it, but is Vuskovic going to be looked at by De Zerbi? I really do hope that De Zerbi looks at Vuskovic in pre-season, to be honest with you. But Senesi coming in kind of says Romero probably is going to be out the door, possibly Dragusin. So it might even be that if Dragusin and Romero go out, and if Vuskovic goes back on loan, we're going to be having to sign another centre-back. So that's going to be interesting. But would you see Senesi obviously plays on the left? Is he going to be the understudy to Mickey van der Ven, or is he going to be pushing van der Ven? Could you have two left-footers playing at centre-back? Of course you could, because you often have two right-footers. But Senesi obviously prefers to play on the left. I think that's the most important thing. So this one looks like it's going to get done, so that's really good news and a good start to the transfer window. But we obviously know we want more. Obviously, you're going to see players going out the door, perhaps a bit later on in the window. But another player mentioned that we're very interested in and have been interested in before, as stated. I think we was sniffing around him in January, was Crescencio Summerville. Now, I watched him when he was at Leeds, and I just thought he was a typical sort of Spurs player. I think there's still elements to his game where he needs to improve. He did go through a bit of a dip towards the end of the season, not being as influential as he was when West Ham went on that run and picked up those points from sort of January onwards. But I definitely think there's a player in there, and people would say, like, you know, we're linked with all these wingers. Well, that's kind of where our issues have been across that front line, isn't it? So we're going to continue to be linked with forward players. So, and Summerville is not a new rumour, so to speak, as I say, because we were linked with him before. Personally, I think if the right amount of money, I think he would be an upgrade. Actually, I think there is a player in there, and you got to remember, working with De Zerbi, I think he improves players, and Summerville, I think, has got all the elements and skills to become a top player. But let's see how that one plays out. Savinho. Again, we seem to have been linked with him every single window. His price is going to be a little bit higher than Summerville. Funny when you dig into Savinho's statistics, Matisse Tell, his stats are actually better than Savinho's this season. Now, you could argue that Savinho hasn't played as many minutes as Tell, but pound for pound, Tell's stats are actually a bit better. I know people have said to me, Savinho is a great player, and under the right manager he would thrive. You got to remember, he's probably under the best manager in the world in Pep Guardiola, and he didn't really set the world alight at Manchester City. Now, again, you could argue he didn't get as many chances. Pep didn't give him as many chances, but you've got to ask yourself why. You could argue that Manchester City have got a glut of brilliant wingers to choose from, and Savinho was always going to struggle to get in the Man City team. Totally understand that. I'm just not convinced that Savinho would be worth the £70 million that's kind of been touted around. I just think there's possibly better wingers out there. I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's not. He's a very, very good footballer. But when you look at his numbers, and I urge you to go and look at his numbers, they're probably on par with other wingers who would cost a lot less. Like Summerville, could you see us going for Summerville and Savinho? I mean, that would transform the front line. Of course it would, with pace. But that's interesting, Savinho. We seem to be linked with him, as I say, every transfer window. So I just wouldn't. I think spending £70 million on Savinho, is it worth it? I mean, get down in the comments and let me know. What do you think? Do you think £70 million on Savinho would be good business for Spurs? And finally, Santiago Giminez. I mentioned this player a year or so ago. I think he's a superb striker. Santiago Giminez struggled a bit in Italy since the move. Another player we've kind of been linked with over multiple transfer windows. And again, I would be all for this. I think he'd be a really good addition to the front line. Now, does that mean one of Solanke or Richarlison are going to go? You would think out the two, it would probably be Richarlison. But as I say, we're going to continue to be linked with these forward players all transfer window. And for me, Santiago Giminez would be a very good addition to the squad. But get down in the comments, let me know, what do you think about those rumours today? And let me know any other players that you would like to see come to Spurs over this transfer window. And as always, come on you Spurs.